woke up in the middle of the night
Mm-hmm.
with a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that this series we've been doing on honor
Mm-hmm.
has really ministered and really helped a lot of people, because it is an actual question that we're answering.
Yeah.
But I woke up thinking about the whole idea of submission, because then that's the next thing, is
Right.
obedience, submission, like how does that all play in to honor? And what really strikes me is that the submission that we're called to, like Paul said that wives submit to their husbands, that kind of thing, right? We submit to the love that people have for us, right? Rather than an obligation to make them happy.
That's good. I
Right.
like that definition.
Yeah, and so then what Paul uses in Ephesians chapter 6 is the example of Christ in the church.
Right.
Which is very cool, because he says that as Christ loves the church, so husbands ought to love their wives. And then he talks about how, and I use this, I think, a lot about, our own marriage, is that my responsibility to my wife, in a sense, is to present her to myself, well, what Jesus would say, without spot or wrinkle, right?
Right, yeah.
Like there's a responsibility that we have if we love our spouse, or let's say if we're leaders and we love the people that we're leading, that kind of thing, whatever it is. There's a responsibility that we have to present them to ourselves or to the vision or whatever, but the whole thing is based on love.
Right. So we're not submitting because of authority or submitting to authority.
Right.
In a sense you are, but it's not the authority that's the motivation, but you're submitting because of the love and the care and the trust that you also have.
Yeah, that's right.
in the other
That's
person.
it, isn't it? And so
Yeah.
that really helps us discern then, like how to submit,
Right.
right? And what to submit to. Because the fact is that in any person that you're going to submit yourself, whether it's husbands or wives or anything, there's going to be issues. There's going to be problems, right? There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would say, honestly, like for in the ministry, for example, that we are totally 100% submitted to the 10 tenets of victory.
Yes, that's true.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And that is, there's a love of vision there and all that kind of thing. But we're not 100% submitted to every, what we would say, policy or order
Right.
that comes down the line.
Yeah.
Because you know that you're in a place of responsibility over the ministry or whatever it is that God's given you, that if you did something that was hurtful to the ministry,
Right.
even if it was somebody else's suggestion, it's still your responsibility.
Right. It's true. Yeah. Or somebody else's order, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think for submission to work, it has to be voluntary.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times especially when you're thinking of it in terms of authority, like parents over kids and that kind of thing, there tends to be this idea, well, you have to listen to me, you
Right.
have to obey me. But that only produces almost rebellion or like
Yeah, right.
an
That's
automatic
right.
like opposition, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no care to you as a person.
That's
It's
right.
just about my word goes, and it's that
Right.
whole thing like I'm big, you're little,
Yeah.
that you like to talk
And
about.
you're actually forced
Yeah.
to disobey.
Yes.
Aren't you? Like
It's
that,
true.
and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's much wiser as leaders or as parents or husbands, wives, whatever it is, to foster the love and look at it from that perspective.
Right.
And then that takes us down to the whole idea of, well, what do we do with the things that we don't want to obey? Because there are going to be those kind of things in there. Well, I really see that as the place where we learn to grow.
Right.
Right? Without tension, there's no growth.
Without conflict. Yeah.
Right, without conflict, there's no growth. And that's the best place to have conflict,
Right.
is in a relationship that's based on love.
Right.
Right, because then it doesn't
Yeah.
destroy your future.
That's it.
Right? Then you can use that conflict to say, okay, well, what really needs to happen here? Or, for a daughter or a son, to a father, to a mother, what needs to change from my lives to their lives, kind of thing,
Right.
because there's going to be changes.
Yeah.
If we wanted our kids to be exactly the same as we are, which some people tend to want that, then there's no growth, right? Nothing's going to grow.
It's true.
The thing you're leading isn't going to grow
Yeah.
either, right?
Well, then the question then is, can you submit but not obey, like submit and disobey? Because I find it interesting that it is a different word, right? Like in the New Testament, when it's talking about like servants and slaves, it actually uses the word obey.
Right.
But here it says, like in the scripture, when it talks about submission, it's a totally different word. And the
Right.
idea is more like having people in the proper place or order, almost like a team or something like that, when you're in submission, you're in the right order or in the right
Right.
place, in the right position.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of does make me wonder, like, you could possibly have a submitted heart,
Mm-hmm.
but yet not actually obey. Is that possible?
Obey the orders. Absolutely.
Does
Absolutely.
it
Now,
sound
that
like
wouldn't,
heresy?
that wouldn't work in the army,
No, it
by
wouldn't.
the way.
No, it
But the
wouldn't.
army is working on a flesh level.
Yeah, and a
right?
total authoritarian.
Yeah, that's right.
Level.
Totally
There's no
authoritarian,
relationship
right.
there.
And
Yeah.
they don't care about growth. They care
It's
about winning
true.
wars.
Yeah,
In
that's
fact,
right.
they'll let you die to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
Hopefully
we
your
don't want
parents
that.
don't do that. No, right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so then Paul ends that scripture or
Mm-hmm.
goes on in that scripture in Ephesians talking about honor your father and mother, right?
Right.
Because there's a promise of long life with that, which is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
To be submitted in honor to the people who love you and care for you,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the promise is fulfilled. And honestly, when I think about, the ministry that we lead and the people that we lead, some
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wonderful, amazing people, and I guess they're wonderful because we love them, right? That's what makes them wonderful in our own mind and our own eye, right? It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we love them. But also the idea that I'm not offended at all
Right.
when they do something more differently from what I would do it. Like, I'm actually excited about that.
Right.
Now, maybe there's leaders that would feel insecure about that. But for me personally, if I don't see you guys doing things more differently than what I've done them, then I don't see you growing either.
Right.
Right? I don't
Yeah.
see you expanding or growing. And my heart is for the ministry to grow, obviously, right? And for you guys to grow. And so I think it's important as leaders that we keep that in mind, that the relationship that we're asking people to submit to us is that relationship of love. The
Right.
love part only,
Yeah.
right? And anything else is up for grabs.
Right.
And
yeah.
hopefully up for discussion.
Yeah. It should be, right? Because
Yeah.
we have a relationship. And the more I spend time growing up and being involved in everything, the more I realize the whole tenet of we lead by relationship and not control.
Right.
It's like the number one thing that everything else
It
is
really
built
is.
on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And whenever you have any sense of control, that's when you have to answer these like questions of, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do? Because if ever you're like, you have to submit to me, then that's a problem. It actually kind of reminds me of, like, there was one time where we had a missionary working with us. She was a single lady, and she was working in the school with me, and I was trying to get some things organized, and the way that she was working wasn't the way that I needed her to work. And I remember having a conversation with her, and she said, well, I don't like the way that you run your school, kind of thing. And I said, well, you only have two options. You can either do what we need you to do, or you can choose to leave, And I said, either one of those things I'll be okay with. It's not gonna, I'm not gonna be angry at you. But if you stay, you have to work within the system that we need. Like, you
Right.
have to do the right things, And I think a lot of times as leaders, we feel like if we're asking people to have to do a certain thing, we're afraid that that's control too. But the option always is that they can also leave, right?
Right, yeah.
And as long as people can leave and you're not mad at them, you're not grumpy, you're not like, you're forever cut off,
Yeah. Right.
then it shows a different, because there are certain things that you do have to have standards, and you do have to have specific things.
For sure.
So there is definitely kind of like
Yeah,
a balance
yeah.
there, right? But at the end of the day is, if relationships are not destroyed, then you're probably doing okay, right?
One of the things that we hear so much about today, social media stuff, who cares? But the idea of church abuse,
Right.
like, that's become a thing.
It has.
And you're like, what? Church abuse? Like, who's abusing you, Or is it just person offended, right?
Yeah, and it could be like a leader did do something not right, but you always have a choice not to be under that.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's it. So, I mean, a good example would be if somebody told you to do something illegal,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Then, I mean, it doesn't like totally negate that person from your life. Well, maybe, but that's pushing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the fact is that we need to be able to maneuver through our lives by growing and following what God has called us to do,
Yeah.
and stay in that relationship. So the issue becomes, if you are going to follow criticism, or if you're going to follow a commitment.
Right.
And the love that people have for you is a commitment that they've made, and that's the commitment we respond to. The criticism will always be there, and or the opportunity for it will always be
Right.
there in every relationship, in every church. Like, don't be
Yeah.
surprised, man, oh man, you know.
Yes.
And so the thing is, though, that we can choose to be a victim, or we can choose to grow.
Yeah, that's right.
And most of us that are doing anything successful have absolutely zero patience with the victim mentality
Yeah.
and victimhood.
Because if you see yourself that way, that means you have zero control. The control that we need to have is a control internally. There's nothing we can do about the people around us
Right.
usually or the circumstances, but you can control what you focus on. You can control how you deal with your heart, whether or not
Yes.
you keep it or you release it to God. You can control whether or not you walk in forgiveness, in grace, those kind of things. And I think, you know, we want to make other people responsible for how we feel. And there is a degree to that, but at the end of the day, I can't do anything about you. I can only do
That's
everything
right.
about me, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
that's where real maturity comes into play too. And, you know, my heart just breaks when you hear about stories of like people, like there's a whole thing going on right now with a lot of churches, right, where they're getting wild prophetic words and people have been looking them up on Facebook, and then
Yeah.
they get a prophecy and they follow it and it totally destroys their life, you know. And that's tragic, and leaders really do have a responsibility towards that. But when you look at those stories, those usually happen with people that they didn't actually have a relationship with that leader.
That's it exactly.
It
isn't
was just like from the stage onto the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like the people that God's going to use the most to move your life ahead
Oh boy, yeah.
is the people that are your fathers, are your mothers,
it,
are your
Beck, yeah.
brothers, are your
Yeah.
sisters, are the people that you have relationship with. Like, I don't know why I would listen to some guy I've never met and not have any counsel from anybody else
Right.
in my life about
Right.
that, you know? So we have to really be paying attention to those relationships.
Boy, that opens up a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Because if your heart is hungry just to hear something exotic,
Yeah.
you're going to hear it,
Yeah.
and it will take you astray.
Yeah.
And the fact is that, like you say, if there's no relationship of love there, then why
Yeah.
are you committed
Yeah.
to that instead of being committed to the people that have a relationship with you? Because it brings up to the same thing, the whole exposure culture that's going on.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and people are trying to find a balance between, yes, there needs to be exposure, and then but not destroying everything and everybody. And people that have a ministry that's 100% exposure, that's all my ministry is because I'm getting a lot of likes
Don't
and views.
listen to those guys. Like,
That's
don't
right.
spend your time listening to the criticism, even if the criticism is real.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if the criticism is real, and it could easily be.
Yeah.
You know, but that's no.
That's not the focus.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's not. The goal is never to knock people out of
Yeah,
ministry
that's right.
or to knock their influence out of our lives.
Yeah.
And so you look at that and you say, well, if there's no chain of responsibility in that life, because the people that are doing the exposing, they're not under authority.
Either.
They're
yeah,
they're
that's
not
true.
under spiritual
Yeah.
authority, right? They're just
Yeah,
out there
doing their own thing.
doing it, and people somehow think that's legitimate. There's no way that's legitimate, even if it's true.
Yeah, that's
Right?
right.
And so legitimacy comes when
Yeah.
we have a relationship with leaders. Well, there's a lot of stuff.
We went
Rebecca.
to- woo!
Yeah, we did, but that's kind of
it's
what
good,
took us
though,
to.
yeah.
Because that's a big thing right now, and it's
Yeah.
really, really important. So again, it comes down to the family, being in family,
Yeah, that's right.
Having those relationships, and that's where our safety is as leaders
Mm-hmm.
and as well followers, if there is such a thing, and how we
Yeah.
discern and that kind of stuff. But the fact is, if there was something wrong in my life, I don't need somebody from the USA to point it out.
In
Right?
a conference.
That's right, in a conference.
Yeah.
We have a network, if that's a good word, but a family of
Yeah.
people that are our responsibility partners. Not only the guys that are leaders, but the guys that we lead. Like I'm responsible to everybody that we lead, There's that whole thing is in place.
Yeah.
So even if there was a failure somewhere along the line, and also you can notice, Beck, that among Victory Asia, we haven't had those kind of failures, right? As the family moves together,
Yeah.
it's been a tremendously powerful protection over each other and accountability and all that kind of stuff. And we haven't had to say, okay, I've got an accountability partner. No, I've got a whole accountability family,
Yeah.
right? Who are all watching me,
Yeah.
And you don't go anywhere or do anything without everybody knowing about it. That's the
Yeah.
great thing about it, Our lives are they're public, and it's just the way it should be. And again, we live with each other, and so and I have a tracker on everybody. Not because I'm suspicious, but simply because it's convenient to know where people are and to make sure that we're not in trouble or something, Like I watch my wife when she drives. I watch our little thing move. If it stops, I'm concerned.
It stopped in front of them all.
Yeah, it stopped in front of them all. But the worst is it stops in the middle of the highway.
Right. Then you're like,
Then I'm waiting for the phone call.
yeah.
No, but it's good to keep track of each other, and you know, it's part of the love that we have for each other, and the concern and the commitment. So stay committed, guys, and take criticism for like the zero value that it's of.
Yeah.
But use the conflict and the discrepancies in ministry as your place to grow.
It's where you mature.
That's it.
Yeah.
And learn always again how to cast vision up. If there's something that you're doing that I don't understand, then I'd just like to hear it from you. You know, what you're thinking and what you're reasoning, because it's probably really good and I just don't know it. And so communicate,
Yeah.
right? Stay committed.
Stay in relationship.
Yeah. Love you guys.